Okay, there's the water tank. I had the wife look at it and she told me that this side over here was bad. So I pulled it. Now, pulling decals can be very troublesome. I've heard of a couple of ways of doing it. One is to use a pencil eraser. That didn't work on this thing. In fact, I can still see some residual on this. I'm going to hit it with very light sanding, with some very high grit sandpaper in a second. The other way, and this is what I did and it worked, is you take yourself some microsol, you brush it on, you wait a few minutes because this stuff's going to start eating at the decal. And once it started eating the decal and I started noticing wrinkling on the decal, I got some tweezers and pulled the thing right up. And that worked. So, just a tip, if you need to remove a decal, this stuff works. It did for me anyhow. Now I'm going to get this other decal on here so I can clear coat this thing tomorrow. Be back later. Well, I'm done painting up the flat coat on the water tank and the C-130. The only thing I don't like about the flat coat is it frosted the spinner disc. Okay, I'm trying to decide if I want to leave that or not. I know how to fix that. That's not an issue. But that flat coat by Alclad does a really good job. It goes on very quick. It dries very quick. It's a lacquer paint, so it should. And I'm very happy with it. Alright, be back in a bit. Alright everyone, I got the Mercury 9 in the spray booth. Okay? I'm going to attempt to touch up some of this paint right here. Like this and the street marks. A lot of them are good. The striping of the streets are almost perfect. It's the helipad and the stop bars that came out bad. It won't take me much. I'm going to use a card, a very heavy photo card to do it with. And I'm going to decrease the thickness here. I'm also going to use my reliable Sotar 2020 because it doesn't go nuts on the size of the paint width. I just realized I'm missing the tip shield for the Sotar. I'll find that in a minute because that should not be running around without that on there. It's a quick way to bend that needle. Found it. Alright everyone, I'm going to mix up my paint and stuff. I'll be back in a minute. I just wanted to let you know what I'm about to do. Alright everyone, now I got my paint mix. It's sitting in the airbrush. I bought some of these a while back. I'm starting to put my paint thinner in there and my paint cleaner, and I'm labeling them what's what. I even put some black Alclad gloss black base. Look what it did to the bottle. So I don't think they're proof for all paints. We will find out. I'm going to turn on this spray booth and get in the stirring stick to stir my paint up. Now, one or two of you have asked how I did the colors on the concrete. Okay, I like how it's turned out after fixing it. I just looked up the color. The base color for this is Tamiya XF63 German Gray. That is the base color for the roadways. Okay? And I think it's a really good base color for these roadways. Nice and dark. Concrete's about that dark. So that's why I did it. I gotta lay this card out exactly where I want it, and that's part of the tricky spot. You see, that looks a lot better already. All I'm doing is laying the card out and cutting off the ends where the overspray went. The tricky part is the fiber optics are right there. And I'm spraying over the fiber optics, but I can clean that up a little bit. Okay? And I don't care if it's a little fuzzy. Now, this side got way too thick. What I was saying is I used the XF, well, the German Gray, and oh, that one's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to change the orientation of this thing to get that. And anyhow, it's a German Gray. On top of that, there's a lot of color variation where I fixed the paint, and it came out a little different because of the fixing of the paint. And I'm going to blend that in a little bit because that was a little stark. Okay, I'm also going to tone down this gray panel over here a little bit with this stuff by just lightly spraying it over the top like this. and that'll give it a little concrete speculation look. There. I like the coloration that's giving it, and it doesn't look just one color now. I'll point it out in a minute. Now, the big problem with that H is it's going to be its location. Okay? And see, I'm cleaning these up really, really quickly by using this card as a mask. And then I don't have to get the masking tape out and worry about damaging my paint any. Okay? I don't know if you guys can see, but that is cleaning these marks up really, really fast. I just got to figure out how to clean up this side of this H. Ooh, switch hands. Switch hitter. This is going to be fun because I'm not a lefty. Maybe I should get BB in here to paint it for me. She's a lefty. That would work. Yeah, I can tell. I'm not a lefty. I just really saturated one of those fiber optics pretty bad with paint. I'll fix that in a minute, though. Should do this stuff with my right hand. So, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to have to block off part of the video. You couldn't even see what I'm doing anyhow with the H. I had the camera aimed wrong. Oh, there we go. I had the camera aimed wrong the whole time. I'm trying to thin down the letter H so it looks better. And I'm using this card to do it. Okay? It's also too tall this way, so I'm going to block it off and paint it like that. And that looks more like I'd want it. Probably should have painted the H this way in the first place. Anyhow, I'm going to cut this so I can fix it, and I'll come back in a second. Alright, I'm happy with it as it is. I'm not going to fiddle with it anymore. I'm going to hit these roads in a little bit with a flat coat so I can put some oils on it to tone it up a little bit. But I like how the roads and the concrete look right now, and I'm not going to mess with them much. Yeah, I'm going to hit them with a flat coat of paint to fix them in a little bit, and I got to clean up these fibers over here where I got them paint coated. But they're sticking up enough that won't be an issue to do. Alright, once I'm done with that, I can put this fence up. I can get that oil tank mounted today and get this fence up along here. I also want to hit these white spots and clean them up with some green, various shades of green paint. I probably ought to do that before I move this, but I got some gray paint to use up, so I'm going to move this and bring it back. I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, the next colors I'm using are kind of random. I don't care how much of what color I'm using. What I'm doing is I'm trying to hide the base. So what I have here is XF67 NATO Green, XF14 JA Gray, and Khaki XF49. I'm just randomly going to mix these colors. I don't care if they mix in the paintbrush. I don't care about any of that because I'm fixing up all this white stuff around here and hiding the base. Okay? So when I put my static, I'm going to put some grass down on this, some shrubbery and stuff. There's not a white ground underneath it. There's a green colored ground underneath it, and that's why I'm doing this. Alright? And I got my Tamiya lacquer thinner right here. So I'm going to start with, probably ought to start with the lighter color first. So I'm going to start with this stuff. And again, I'm not going to care if the colors mix in the paintbrush, airbrush, or what. I'm doing 8 drops of paint and 8 drops of lacquer thinner. Okay? If you're wondering why I stepped off to the side for a moment, I stepped off because I want to clean up that dropper tube so I don't lose it. What I mean by clean it up is I got a jar of alcohol sitting off to the side, and I just squeeze some alcohol up into the tube until I can go clean it out properly. And that'll keep the Tamiya paint from setting up in that tube and sticking to it, my dropper tube, so I can reuse them a few times. Okay, she's mixed up. I get my handy card because this helps me protect things while I'm spraying, like the road beds. And you can see that white spot's gone. We have some white spots here. Let me hit them. Get my card in here if I can. Again, I don't care how hard I hit this or how thick I hit this. I just want to protect. Oh, that street light just really bent like that. I'm going to make sure that's still functional and fix it. That was so not good. They'll get fixed though. I've fixed them so many times. They got really torn up when I moved. And with this airbrush, I'm not too worried about being too close to the street, but I want to be kind of careful. And that's not so important. I clean that, so I'm not going to try. This black spot right here has been annoying me since I did it. Not black anymore. Got some more white spots here. Card's just thick enough it stops the overspray from traveling, and that's the idea. If I really wanted to with this airbrush, I can get up really close with it and not really have much overspray if I'm careful with my control, like this. I just like the card because it's a insurance policy, so to speak. I know I'm not going to mess up the paint work that's already there with the card in place. Okay? And you guys can start to see where the color variations came from before. These are stroke marks. Well, you can't see it, but right over in that corner is really just stroke marks from my putting down the spackle that I used for the base. Alright? Now, these ones over here are the ones that worry me the most. Being honest, because I got to stretch across here and do a few things, and I don't want to paint those posts. I can clean them, they're brass. I can use some good thinner on them. But if I can avoid that, I want to. And I definitely do not want any paint on this gray here. So we're going to be very careful with this spot right here and try to avoid getting anything on that post. And again, I'm not trying to be perfect with this paint. I don't care. Okay? I don't care if the colors line up beautifully. I don't care if they're scattered, because I'm going to hit this with some darker paint in a little bit. And you can already tell I've been cleaning this up fairly well. Okay, now I hit the paint a little too hard right there, a little too much air pressure, but it didn't really hurt it too much. I've got a green line right here I don't like. So I'm hitting the paint a bit thicker. And that's another thing, this spackling I used along here absorbs the paint really well. Uh-oh. No, it's nothing like that. Okay, anyhow, I think you guys have watched me enough on this. I'll come back when I get it all cleaned up and let you see what it looks like. Alright, everyone. I think that green was a little too dark on that last one. But, to me, if you're standing a little bit off, those roads markings are perfect now. The helicopter H is a little off still. I might try to fix it in a bit because I'm going to have to come back and revisit this darker thing. That concrete pad or whatever that is over there looks better. It looks closer to what this building looks like here. You can see the weathering I did on the building now really well. Okay. You can see a hair on the building. Nope, that's weathering marks. Concrete pads everywhere, pretty much about to be sealed down. I think I need to thin out part of that H a little bit. I'll get Nellie up here to look in a minute before I do that. She'll tell me. She'll hit it up straight. But right now I'm liking the groundwork on this. I'm about ready to start putting everything together, getting some of the tanks. The C-130 is done and ready to go. I need to plug this thing in and see if I messed up that street light. So let me get the power thing here. Plug her in. Nope, she's still working. Everything still works. I just have to clean the paint off a few of these fibers over here. And that's the only thing I dirtied up was those 2 fibers. Everything is functioning fine, including this one, which is supposed to be blinking for the radar tower. Okay. I have to get the spotlights in and wired up. And that's a little bit of what I'm waiting on before I start mounting the Mercury 9 herself. Speaking of the Mercury 9 herself, I got something in the mail today that I would love to show you. I'll show it to you in a second. Be back in a bit.